Hello and welcome to How to Play Abandon All Artichokes, presented by GatherTogetherGames.com. This video will cover how to play the card game Abandon All Artichokes. The video will start with the general concepts and gameplay, and then get into more of the details for the game. The game is played with 2 to 4 players. To play, you will need the Abandon All Artichokes game. Thanks to GameRight for providing the game used in this tutorial. The artichoke cards are separated from the other cards in the deck. Each player is given 10 artichoke cards. These cards make up a player's initial deck. If playing with less than 4 players, any unused artichoke cards are set aside and not used in the game. Players will then take 5 cards from their deck to have in their hand. The remaining cards are shuffled together and placed into the middle. This stack of cards is known as the garden stack. The top 5 cards are turned face up onto the playing surface. These face up cards are known as the garden row. The object of the game is to get a hand of 5 cards without any artichoke cards in it. Players will draw and play cards throughout the gameplay. When playing cards, players will complete actions described on the card played. Going back to the game set up earlier, I have flipped up each player's initial hand of cards for you to see. In an actual game, you will keep your hand of cards hidden from the other players. The player who most recently ate a cooked green vegetable goes first. Player 1 will go first in this game. Each turn consists of 5 phases. These phases are printed on a turn guide card that players can reference throughout the game. The first phase is to replenish the garden row to 5 face-up cards. Since this is the first turn of the game, the garden row is full. Next, the player will harvest 1 card from the garden row. Player 1 will draw the broccoli card from the garden row. In the third phase of a turn, the player will play any number of cards wanted. Since this is player 1's first turn, they only have the card just drawn to play. Player 1 plays the broccoli card that states, compost an artichoke if your hand has 3 or more artichokes. The compost pile is created next to the garden stack. In the fourth phase of a turn, the player will discard any unplayed cards from their hand. These cards are placed in a personal discard pile next to the personal deck. The final phase of a turn is for the player to draw a new hand of 5 cards from their personal deck. Play moves left to the next player. Player 2's turn begins with the garden row being replenished to 5 face-up cards. Player 2 decides to harvest the potato card from the garden row. Player 2 plays the potato card that states, reveal the top card of your deck. Compost if artichoke, otherwise discard it. The top card is an artichoke and player 2 will compost it. Player 2 will discard the rest of their hand. Player 2 only has 4 cards in their deck to draw. When a player's deck runs out, they will shuffle their discard pile to form a new deck, then draw to get their hand to 5 cards. Play moves to player 3 and players continue taking turns playing. The first player to draw a new hand with no artichokes in it at the end of their turn wins the game. The player will show their hand and announce, Abandon all artichokes. A player does not win if their hand has no artichokes in the middle of their turn or another player's turn. Only if their hand has no artichokes after their hand refill at the end of their turn. That wraps up How to Play Abandon All Artichokes. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and find more game tutorials by subscribing to the channel Gather Together Games. Thanks for watching.